Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha Television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are this morning's headlines. New passport rules: Aadhar card will be accepted as proof of birth in case of single or divorced parents. Name of anyone allowed in the application. Agreement on law for compensating states' decision on dual control and IGST pending at end of two-day GST Council meet. United Nations Security Council adopts resolution demanding end to Israeli settlements. US abstains from vote. Israel won't abide. Hijackers of Libyan plane surrender in Malta. They had seized control of flight with 118 people on board. The two men are being questioned. And India beat Sri Lanka by 34 runs to lift the Under-19 Asia Cup title. Complete hat-trick of Asia Cup wins. Well, the Ministry of External Affairs on Friday announced new rules for the application of passport. The MEA has decided to accept Aadhar and e-Aadhar cards as a proof of birth while applying for passports. Earlier, all applicants had to mandatorily submit their birth certificates as proof of date of birth. The MEA also introduced policy changes for single parents and divorced applicants. The passport application form will now require the applicant to provide the name of the father or mother or legal guardian. The form no longer requires the applicant to provide the name of a spouse in case of separated or divorced persons. Sadhus have been allowed to fill out their passport forms with the names of their spiritual gurus instead of parents. In case of orphaned children who do not have any proof of date of birth, such as birth certificate or matriculation certificate, they can now submit a declaration given by the head of the orphanage childcare home on their official letterhead of the organization confirming the same.
आज की परिस्थितियों में लोगों को जिस चीज के लिए दिक्कत आती थी, समस्या आती थी, उनको कठिनाई होती थी फॉर्म के अंदर या पासपोर्ट पाने में, वो आसान हो गया।
Meanwhile, the two-day GST Council ended in New Delhi on Friday. It will now meet again on the 3rd of January and 4th to iron out pending issues. A decision on dual control and IGST are pending, while there was agreement on law for compensating states. The finance minister said that dual control and cross-empowerment are the two issues that remain to be sorted, while the rest of the draft of supporting GST laws has been approved. A legally vetted draft of law for compensation to states will be placed before the GST Council at the next meeting. Consensus has eluded on the model GST law. The subsequent GST legislations, CGST, IGST and compensation law could not be introduced in the winter session of Parliament that ended last week, and this has threatened the April 2017 rollout target.
So the primary draft of CGST and the SGST law, comprising of 197 provisions and 5 schedules, has been approved. There were some portions which were left out, on which either some representation was made by a state government or we could not reach a consensus. So today morning we went into each one of those issues, and many of those issues have been sorted out. And now with regard to the draft, only a few issues remain. Only those blanks are there which relates to dual control and cross-empowerment.
Well, the Enemy Property Amendment and Validation 5th Ordinance 2016 has been promulgated by the President Pranab Mukherjee on Friday. The move has been made to amend the 5-decade-old Enemy Property Act to guard against claims of succession or transfer of properties left by people who migrated to Pakistan and China after wars. The Union Cabinet has approved reissuing the ordinance on Wednesday. The ordinance has been reissued as a bill to amend the law could not be passed in Parliament due to repeated adjournments over the demonetization issue. To prevent the vested properties, the ordinance for the first time was promulgated on the 7th of January 2016. Meanwhile, India on Friday insisted that it has never refused talks with Pakistan while stating that it is the Asian neighbour which has to ensure a peaceful atmosphere for the same. Reacting to recent comments by Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif that Islamabad wants peaceful settlement of matters with India, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Vikas Swarup said that India has never refused talks. The MEA spokesperson further insisted that in a situation of infiltration, cross-border firing, attacking soldiers, no fruitful talks can take place between the hostile neighbours. He also added that Pakistan has to ensure that there is suitable atmosphere for bilateral talks. He also reacted to comments by a senior Pakistani general that New Delhi should shun enmity with Islamabad and jointly reap the benefit of the multi-billion-dollar China-Pakistan economic corridor project. Swarup said that it is a Chinese initiative which goes through sovereign part of India and Indian concerns, so the issue have been conveyed to parties concerned.
हमने सिर्फ ये कहा है कि पाकिस्तान को एक ऐसा वातावरण बनाना चाहिए जिसमें कि ऐसी बातचीत हो सके जिसका फिर कोई फल निकले। एक ऐसा माहौल जहां पे लगातार निरंतर हम देख रहे हैं कि आतंकवाद चल रहा है, हिंसा चल रही है, एलओसी पे फायरिंग चल रही है, हर दिन प्रतिदिन कोई ना कोई टेररिस्ट की घुसपैठ हो रही है, इन्फिल्ट्रेटर्स आ रहे हैं, हमारे सोल्जर्स को अटैक कर रहे हैं। तो ऐसे वातावरण में हम किस तरह सार्थक बातचीत कैसे हो सकती है, सार्थक वार्ता पाकिस्तान के साथ कैसे हो सकती है? तो पाकिस्तान को एक सार्थक वातावरण बनाना है, एक ऐसा वातावरण बनाना है जिसमें कि हिंसा और आतंकवाद का सहारा वो लेना छोड़ दें और फिर आके बैठे हम हर मसले पर उनसे बातचीत करने को तैयार हैं। एंड CPEC is an integral part of that. CPEC passes through sovereign Indian territory. So obviously our concerns in this regard have been, conveyed clearly both to China as well as to Pakistan.
Meanwhile, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi addressed a rally on Friday in Uttarakhand's Almora district. He once again criticized the government's move to demonetize old 500 and 1,000 rupee notes and called the move an economic robbery. Rahul also said more than 100 people have lost their lives since the announcement and claimed that the Prime Minister was mocking the poor by calling them thieves. He reiterated that all cash is not black money and all black money is not cash. However, he also asserted that the Congress party is committed to obliterate corruption from the country. He also demanded to know the names of those who have been hoarding black money.
नोटबंदी काले धन के खिलाफ निर्णय नहीं था, भ्रष्टाचार के खिलाफ निर्णय नहीं था। नोटबंदी एक आर्थिक डकैती थी, आर्थिक डकैती। 2.5 साल से नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने सिर्फ एक काम किया है, हिंदुस्तान के गरीबों पर आक्रमण करा है।
Meanwhile, outgoing Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, Najib Jung, on Friday met Prime Minister Narendra Modi and apprised him of the reasons for his resignation. Focus has now shifted to the search for Jung's successor, as the central government is reportedly mulling over a number of options to replace the Lieutenant Governor.
A day after the surprise resignation of Lieutenant Governor Najib Jung, the centre is reportedly discussing names for his successor. However, as per reports, the government has not yet accepted Jung's resignation. In a related development, Jung met Prime Minister Narendra Modi and apprised him of the reasons for his resignation. He said he requested the Prime Minister to relieve him after 3 years as Delhi LG. Meanwhile, Minister of State for Home Hansraj Gangaram Ahir said the government had not forced Jung to tender his resignation.
मुझे लगता नहीं कि ऐसी कोई हलचल की बात है इसमें। कोई भी व्यक्ति, कोई भी अधिकारी अपने निजी स्तर पे निर्णय ले सकता है, उन्होंने निर्णय लिया है। प्रोसेस चल रही है अभी हो सकता है हमारे होम सेक्रेटरी साहब का उसका अर्जी इस्तीफा पहुंचा होगा, HM साहब का उसमें जाएगा, उस पर निर्णय होगा। हम प्रोसेस में हम भेज देंगे राष्ट्रपति महोदय के पास में, HM साहब करेंगे।
Earlier, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal and Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia met the outgoing Lieutenant Governor at his residence.
कुछ इंसिडेंट्स इस तरह के होते रहे दिल्ली में चिकनगुनिया वगैरह का और इस सब का, इसलिए वो इस्तीफा नहीं कर पाए, वो छोड़ नहीं पाए, लेकिन उनका मन 1 साल से था, ऐसा उन्होंने मुझे बताया.
Meanwhile, reports said that Anil Bajal, who was Home Secretary in the Atal Bihari Vajpayee-led BJP government, reportedly tops the list of probables for the Lieutenant General's position. Former Delhi Police Commissioner B.S. Basi and Puducherry Governor Kiran Bedi are already doing the rounds as potential candidates for the post. 66-year-old Jung resigned on Thursday, citing personal reasons for his decision.
After Najib Jung's resignation, lot of new names for the post of Lieutenant Governor are in discussion. But will the Kejriwal government understand the constitutional position of Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, as the constitution and law will remain the same no matter who the next LG is? With video journalist Shamlal Anudivan for Rajya Sabha TV.
Moving on now, Manipur is struggling with an economic blockade, protests and violence for more than 50 days. Normal life is paralyzed as the state faces shortages and escalating costs of essential supplies like food and fuel. Union Minister Kiran Rijiju reviewed the situation in the state on Friday. He did not say if the blockade will end anytime soon.
As the economic blockade entered its 53rd day, Minister of State for Home Kiran Rijiju visited Imphal on Friday to review the situation. He met the Manipur Chief Minister and other officials over the disruption being caused by the United Naga Council.
They are very well aware of what you have already projected the issue here. Despite that, if there are anything additional which we need to take steps, we'll definitely take it.
Rijiju stressed that the Manipur government must discharge its constitutional duties by ending the blockade immediately and bring back normalcy to the state. He also added that the central government wants law and order to prevail in the state.
Road blockade is unacceptable, and the state government has to ensure that there is no further road blockade, and for that the support will be given by us.
However, the ground situation continues to be worrisome. 3 government offices, including the office of recently created Kamjong district, were burnt down by unidentified persons. In another incident, 2 rooms of the mini secretariat were set on fire by unidentified persons in Ukhrul district on Friday.
Out of anger, we have started this controlled economic blockade, and I would say that we are not against anybody, let it be Nagas, Cookies or anybody. We are just, it's a form of protest. It's a form of protest against the government, that why they are letting us suffer for the past 50 days.
The United Naga Council is enforcing the blockade to denounce the creation of 7 new districts from areas inhabited by the Nagas in Manipur. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the centre has defended its move to grant domicile certificates to West Pakistan refugees, dismissing charges that the move had a Hindutva agenda behind it. The government said the nation owes it to them to ensure for the refugees had dignified means of livelihood. Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office, Jitendra Singh, said that the state government, in consultation with the Home Ministry, devised a mechanism where each of the refugees could be provided a proof of identity so that he or she could be enabled to apply for government jobs.
Defending its move to grant domicile certificates to West Pakistan refugees in Jammu and Kashmir, the centre on Friday refuted charges that the move had a Hindutva agenda behind it. It claimed that the nation owed refugees a dignified means of livelihood. Centre said it has devised a mechanism where each of the refugees could be provided a proof of identity so as to enable them to apply for government jobs.
These are some of the persons who have been there in the last 70 years, but because of certain constitutional reasons, they do not have the citizenship certificate or the state subject certificate, and therefore I think the nation owes to give them some kind of an identity proof so that at least they could apply for a job.
Both the opposition and separatist parties have came together to oppose the decision. They allege that the government was removing the roadblocks in integrating refugees into the state. The separatists have called statewide protests from Friday. Police and paramilitary forces have been asked to maintain law and order.
They say that this is a dilution of the special status, and this will also change the demography, because majority of the, not only majority, but the West Pakistan refugees are basically Hindus and Sikhs, and so they are protesting against it, and they have once again tried to vitiate the peaceful situation in Jammu and Kashmir. This is highly condemnable.
Anybody who belongs to Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh and is a permanent resident of Jammu and Kashmir will not allow anybody to trample the state subject laws which have been brought into the state in 1927 by Maharaja Hari Singh. And any attempt to do so will be resisted by everybody who belongs to Jammu and Kashmir.
वेस्ट पाकिस्तान से हैं, इनको पाकिस्तान पंजाब से है, इनको इंडियन पंजाब में बसाना चाहिए या वापस पाकिस्तानी पंजाब भेज दो या और कहीं अंडमान निकोबार में बसा दो, लेकिन यहाँ किसी भी सूरत में हम ये इनको रहने की इजाजत नहीं देंगे। अगर रह रहे हैं शरणार्थी तो रह जाए, हमें उससे कोई आपत्ति नहीं है, मगर स्टेट सब्जेक्ट किसी भी सूरत में हम इनको देने नहीं देंगे, क्योंकि ये मुतनाज़ा करता है। अगर ऐसा होता है तो हम यहाँ एक नई एजिटेशन स्टार्ट होगी, जिसकी जो कहीं थमने वाली एजिटेशन नहीं होगी।
Independent legislator Sheikh Abdul Rashid and his supporters were detained in Srinagar after they protested against the move. The state government on Thursday clarified it was not granting domicile certificates but instead was issuing identity cards.
जहाँ आके 70 सालों से हम लोग जहाँ रह रहे हैं, हमारी जहाँ 4 जनरेशनें जो वो खत्म हो चुकी है, और आज भी अगर हमें जम्मू कश्मीर में जहाँ की नागरिकता ना मिले तो इससे दुखद और क्या समाचार होगा।
The West Pakistan refugees settled in Jammu and Kashmir are citizens of India and have the right to vote in parliamentary elections. However, they are not permanent residents of the state under the Jammu and Kashmir constitution. They do not enjoy voting rights to the state assembly and local bodies. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, it's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. Well, the ISIS has published a video which allegedly shows Berlin Christmas market attack suspect Anis Amri swearing allegiance to the militant group and its leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. The Tunisian man was shot dead by police in Milan on Friday. The Italian government said Amri was fatally shot after he fired at 2 police officers who stopped his car for a routine identity check. The government said the identity checks had established without a shadow of doubt that the dead man was Amri.
A video of the Berlin Christmas truck attack suspect Anis Amri pledging allegiance to the Islamic State leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi has been published by the extremist group's Amaq news agency. In it, Amri calls for IS supporters to take revenge against crusaders bombing Muslims.
والصلاة والسلام على من بعث بالسيف رحمة للعالمين. أما بعد فإني أبايع أمير المؤمنين أبا بكر البغدادي الحسيني القرشي على السمع والطاعة في العسر واليسر.
Amri was killed in a shootout on Friday in a suburb in the Italian city of Milan. The shooting reportedly took place before dawn.
La persona uccisa è risultata essere, dopo tutte le indagini che si fanno in questo caso, senza ombra di dubbio, Anis Amri, il presunto sospettato dell'attacco terroristico a Berlino.
On Thursday, the Christmas markets reopened in Berlin, 3 days after a truck plowed into a crowd at the market, killing 12 people and injuring over 50 others. Flowers and candles were laid at the entrance of the Christmas market. Many people mourned the victims and prayed for the injured ones in the attack.
Wir gehen ja gerade deswegen hierher, weil wir einfach zeigen wollen, dass das Leben auch einfach weitergehen muss, auch nach so einer schrecklichen Tat.
Natürlich fühle ich da mit den Menschen, die dort auch Angehörige oder Freunde verloren haben, aber ansonsten hat sich bei mir überhaupt nichts verändert.
Massive influx of refugees is considered one of the reasons for the current insecurity in Germany. So, whether the German government will review and readjust its refugee policy has been the major concern of the local people.
Ich denke, es gibt überall schwarze Schafe, ob bei den Flüchtlingen, ob unter uns. Also man kann das nicht pauschalisieren, wir wollen es auch nicht pauschalisieren. Aber wenn er eben sowas macht, finde ich, gehört er einfach nicht in unser Land.
Police have set up cement barriers in large Christmas markets all over the country to avoid similar attacks. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the hijacking of a Libyan plane ended peacefully after the men who seized control surrendered in Malta. The domestic flight with 118 people on board was hijacked after taking off from Sabah bound for the Libyan capital, Tripoli. The Libyan aircraft was, however, diverted to Malta International Airport. The two hijackers, who appeared to be supporters of Libya's late deposed leader, Muammar Gaddafi, claimed to have hand grenades and threatened to blow the plane up unless their demands were met. All the passengers and crew have been released. The two hijackers are in custody and have not yet made any request for political asylum.
Hijackers were told that in order for any discussions to be entertained, they should release all passengers first. This request was negotiated and eventually accepted, and all passengers were released in consecutive groups. 2 members of the crew were also released with the passengers, while another 4 were detained for a further period of time. After further negotiations, the hijackers agreed to free the remaining members of the crew and to surrender.
Meanwhile, moving on to our other big international focus now, the UN Security Council has voted for a resolution demanding an end to Israeli settlements. In a break from tradition, the US abstained from voting, allowing 14 out of the 15 votes in the Council in favor of the Egypt-sponsored resolution. The US abstention came despite President-elect Donald Trump's statement asking the US to use its veto powers.
Del proyecto de resolución que figura en el documento S/2016/1100, sírvanse levantar la mano.
The United Nations Security Council adopting a resolution demanding an end to Israeli settlements. The US abstained from the vote, paving the way for the 15-member council to approve the resolution with 14 votes in favor. The voting coming a day after Egypt withdrew the measure under pressure from Israel and US President-elect Donald Trump. New Zealand, Malaysia, Venezuela and Senegal were co-sponsors of the draft resolution. The resolution was the first adopted by the Council on Israel and Palestinians in nearly 8 years.
After years of following the law to be trampled and the situation to spiral downward, today's resolution may rightly be seen as a last attempt to preserve the two-state solution and revive the path for peace, to keep the hope alive. For many, this seems virtually impossible at this point, as Israel, the occupying power, has been permitted to entrench its occupation and a one-state reality with absolute impunity, at times even being rewarded for its violations and intransigence. Against this backdrop, one Council resolution in nearly 8 years is not disproportionate. It is shameful. But today's vote rectifies this record and set us on a new course.
Who gave you the right to issue such a decree, denying our eternal rights in Jerusalem? Would this council have had the nerve to condemn your country for building homes in your capital?
The US abstention coming despite a statement from President-elect Donald Trump opposing any decision not to use the US veto on the resolution. Traditionally, the US has used its veto power as a permanent member to block resolutions condemning Israel. US abstention being seen as a parting shot by Barack Obama, who has made settlements a major target of peace efforts.
We believe, though, that continued settlement building seriously undermines Israel's security. Some may cast the U.S. vote as a sign that we have finally given up on a two-state solution. Nothing could be further from the truth. None of us can give up on a two-state solution. We continue to believe that that solution is the only viable path to provide peace and security for the State of Israel and freedom and dignity for the Palestinian people.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said he will not abide by the vote. The Palestinian leadership welcomed the resolution.
This is a historic day. The international community have stood tall for peace, for hope. The international community unanimously rejected the policies of the Israeli government, policies of settlements, dictation, fait accompli policies. This is a day of hope. This is a day that the international community that said the only way out of this conflict is achieving the two-state solution, whereby the state of Palestine will live side by side the state of Israel on the 1967 lines.
President-elect Trump, who will be inaugurated on 20th January, tweeted after the vote. As to the UN, things will be different after January 20th. Jewish settlements is one of the most contentious issues between Israel and the Palestinians. Palestinians see them as an obstacle to peace. Settlements are considered illegal under international law. Israel, however, disputes this. About 5 lakh Jews live in about 140 settlements built since Israel's 1967 occupation of the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, moving on to some sports news now. India beat Sri Lanka by 34 runs to lift the Asian Cricket Council Under-19's Asia Cup title at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo on Friday. Opting to bat after winning the toss, India first posted a competitive 273 for 8 in their 50 overs and then rode on its spinners' fine bowling effort to bowl out Sri Lanka for 239 in 48.4 overs. The first 5 batsmen, Himanshu Rana 71 and Shubham Gill 70, were instrumental in laying the foundation for India's total. For Sri Lanka, pacer Nipun Ransika and left-arm spinner Praveen Jayavikrama took 3 wickets each. Skipper Abhishek, 4 for 37, was assisted by leg spinner Rahul Chahar, who returned with impressive figures of 3 for 22 from his quota of 10 overs to dismantle the Lankans. Well, that's it on this edition of the Breakfast News. Have a good day.